Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy, NerdModon, and I'll be doing a gameplay commentary over some Battlefield 4. In this particular installation, you guys are going to be noticing that I will be using the Little Bird, and I'm going to be playing on Hainan Resort, which is actually a pretty decent map. I enjoy it for the boat combat, as well as using maybe something like the Little Bird, for example, and going on some pretty good kill streaks. Unfortunately, there is an anti-air, so you have to try to be a little bit more defensive or try to decrease the ability for the anti-air to destroy your day, but by and large, with the main structure in the middle of the map, a lot of the time the anti-air doesn't really have a chance to shoot you down, and as long as you're not getting too aggressive and trying to push their flags, you're usually going to have a pretty good chance of getting a good amount of kills, as well as staying up in the air as long as possible. You guys know how I pretty much play the setup when it comes to the Little Bird. I like the 25mm cannons because I love that splash damage. I find it to be very effective against armored units, and it kind of allows me to play the game and look at every vehicle or obstacle as something I can destroy. I don't have to pick my targets, and I don't have to try to analyze what their weaknesses are. I just know right off the bat that I can pretty much take anything at any certain range, which is always a pleasure and always an advantage, especially when it comes to air combat as well as ground combat. So with that in mind, of course, I've had a lot of success with trying to use the scout helicopter in more of a defensive role. You guys have probably noticed that I like to evade, I like to try to get in there right into the mix of things and try to do as much damage in a very short succession. And then, of course, after the point where I'm reloading or the Stinger missiles start flying in or whatever the case might be, I like to back off to where our anti-air is at. And then during that point where the anti-air has the ability to lock onto the helicopter and then pretty much destroy it, or maybe even a jet in some circumstances, but by and large, it allows it to really do a significant amount of damage, as well as me get some reps in, or maybe get my ECM recharged, or whatever the case might be, which is always great. I think having maps that have that kind of a feature, those built-in anti-spawn rate measures, is always really great. And I know a lot of people will be 50-50 on that, but I think by and large, I think it allows everybody to have a fair chance when it comes to the battlefield, as well as having the ability to enjoy the circumstances that the original creators designed the map for. And of course, I like to go back there to use it as a defensive measure, try to keep the opposition at bay, as well as trying to keep them away from me, especially when going through those periods of having to refill my ammunition or ECM, or really having just to do some reps because of the combat I was just finding myself in. But then, of course, after that point, I like to really go back into the combat, fly back inbounds where everybody else can see me and the Stinger missiles can fly beyond comparison. But with that in mind, using the surrounding and the area, the environment, really allows yourself to really get up and close to the opposition, because it still takes a little while for those Stingers or the anti-air to lock onto you. But if you can try to get as close as possible without having those things locking onto you, you're going to quickly find that your success rate is much higher than it would be if you just flew very high and had the opposition know exactly where you're at, considering that you do show up as a beautiful red Dorito, which I think most of us would probably find pretty delicious. And especially if you're using something that locks on, it's a lot of XP for an easy kill. And definitely trying to use the environment to decrease that chance of them seeing you or even locking onto you is just going to make the game a lot easier. Now, of course, you do have some other things that you have to worry about, such as, LAVs, and in some cases the boats, especially if they are using the TV missile, which some people are really good with them, but again, some people are really bad with them, such as myself. I'm not the best player, but from time to time I do happen to get a pretty decent kill, but by and large, I'm definitely not the player shooting the TV missiles across the map, shooting them through under bridges and stuff like that. It's just not me. But when I do hit one, I definitely like to cheer and maybe give a little fist pump up there, but depending on how I'm feeling, that might be something that's in the works. But of course, that's just something you have to deal with, especially as being a scout helicopter pilot. You have to worry about all the different obstacles that the map presents, but trying to use everything in a different light, trying to stay elevated, but at the same expense trying to use cover or the environment, is just going to make you a much better player when it comes down to the piloting capabilities of Battlefield 4. But anyway, guys, I just thought I'd let you guys know how I feel about this specific map, give you guys some tips when it comes down to flying. I know it can be a little bit more difficult in this installation of the Battlefield series in comparison to the previous one, but of course, as you become a little bit more familiar with the maps, and as you get the proper assessments and the overall layout of your vehicle, you're going to quickly find that your success rate is going to be even higher than it was in the previous installment. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and this is NMO, and I'm going to be signing out, guys. Peace.